Good evening, and welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. This is where you'll meet some of the most intelligent, talented, and creative people that come to share tips, resources, and knowledge. And right now, we're going to talk about what's going on in the music industry right now. And I have with me my guest, Carlos Stanfield, who is a former manager with the group Tony, and of course, he's managed other artists as well. So Carlos actually has a lot to say about what he thinks is going on with the music industry and the state of it. So let's kind of get into this conversation. So welcome, Carlos.
Hi, how you doing, Kelly?
Good, good.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So this is a recap because you and I actually did a podcast earlier where we actually talked about R&B music. And so now
Hmm.
you want to talk about hip hop music. And like I said, I'm not a real hip hop person fan. I never did really understand that music, number one. Some of it I like, some of it I don't. And the state of what's happening in hip hop right now is what you want to talk about. So tell me, what is going on in the hip hop industry right now?
Well, it's kind of a microcosm, if you ask me. I'm not actively on a daily basis in the industry these days, and haven't been for quite some time. But with the for the kinds of things that's going on in the R&B in the black music uh, department of the music industry is the reason why I'm no longer a participant in the music industry because of the things that are happening, say, surrounding the P. Diddy scandal. And how does a guy like P. Diddy, who actually doesn't write any music, he doesn't own a record label, he doesn't formally own a record label, he doesn't like I said, he's not a performer these days. He's had very little bit of a short, very short lifespan as a performer, but he has pretty much made his fame as a music industry executive. And how does a guy like him come up through the industry to such uh, heights in the industry? How does these things happen? What facilitates that? And how does a Jay Z, who was just a rapper himself, and a guy like P. Diddy, how do they rise to such high levels of success, quote unquote, and financial success, quote unquote, when we have so many artists that are just not able to survive and financially survive in this industry? How does Jay Z rise to those heights, and how does P. Diddy rise to those levels of financial success? And what are they doing behind the scenes, and who is facilitating it?
Well, okay,
These are
so
questions.
like I said, I don't know too much about either one of them, but I do know that they have been respected many years as businessmen. So not only they both ran record labels. So I think that gives them that business acumen where they had artists that they produced artists. And that's how they made their money there, as well as, being mentored by some of the high executives in the industry, like a Clive Davis and some of the other people and I think, from what I understand, P. Diddy mentored Jay-Z. So, and then plus they also were smart enough after they did start making money where they got involved with sponsorship, where, the what is it, the Scirocco vodka, whatever it is, and all the other things that they did. So they have legitimate businesses as far as I'm concerned. So I don't think that is the question. I'm just really trying to figure out where are you going with this? What do you think?
Well, I mean, let's go back to why is why is it coincidence that one of the biggest selling and most important artists in the music industry life of Jay Z or P. Diddy was Biggie Smalls. So you take the situation where Biggie Smalls and Tupac, Biggie Smalls from the East Coast, Tupac from the West Coast, these very important, very successful artists are no longer in the industry, and, and they are no longer alive, and these and have not been for some time. And what happened to their to all the proceeds that should have gone to them as artists, as writers, as producers? What happened to their money, and how did it end up in the hands of the P Diddy's of the world?
Well, how do we not, so what are you basing it on in terms of where their money went? Where do you think it went? Now, from what I understand, I don't know if uh, Biggie's mom got any of his royalties or anything like that. I don't know. So, what do you
And
know?
I don't know, and I don't know either. But what it appears is that somehow the arrangement was uh, the the proceeds somehow ended up with P Diddy.
How do we know that? What are you basing that on?
Um, Not on anything factual or anything that I can put my hands on, but
Well, you know what? And you're gonna be
because I
talking
don't
about
have
the
any, I don't because I don't have any of the accounting records, but I think it's a very well
mm,
known around the industry that these guys are profiting and from the success of artists like P. Diddy and Tupac. Somebody's siphoning off their royalties and
okay.
their the money that should have been going to these artists in their estates. Guys, people like Jay-Z and I mean, why is it, one of the other questions, why is it that so many artists are broke, and these quasi executives like P. Diddy and Jay-Z are so rich? These guys got billionaire status, and these artists are running around here trying to seeming as if they're doing everything they can to stay alive.
Well, okay,
And
so when you're talking
this
about the
just seems
artist,
to
give
be.
me an example of what artist is starving and struggling. Who are you speaking of?
Let's take Mace. Let's take Mace. Mace, for instance. I think is it Mace or Maze? Mace.
Okay.
He's not doing it. All we know is he was signed to that label that was supposedly headed up by P Diddy, and like I said, P Diddy's a billionaire, and Mace is just another broke artist.
Do we know that Mace is broke?
I think so. I don't.
You know what? See,
I'm
the
not
thing
there
is
accounting.
that you know what, so you need to be allegedly thinking that these folks are this and that because if you don't really have the
Well, I'm a preference. Everything I'm saying here with you tonight is alleged.
okay, and based on your own opinion, how about that?
Not my opinion, my alleged knowledge of the
Well, but your alleged knowledge is a
the
little
industry.
shaky. Your
It's fair. I mean, I can't prove anything, and I don't have any specifics, but I think it's pretty well known around the industry that these guys are being ripped off for their royalties and their records. It's
sure.
profits from their record sales.
Well, now look at it this way. So we know that P. Diddy is incarcerated right now, right?
Yes.
So, I don't know if they put a freeze on his assets and his money right now. So he's also broke, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, he's definitely. Well, I mean, he's definitely broke now. He's broke,
Well,
and he's a
exactly. I mean, so
broken man.
his money is on freeze, I think. I mean, I don't know how that works in terms of that, but I haven't heard any of the artists come out saying that. Well, I did hear one artist said that he owes him money. Um, so that I guess maybe he
Hey,
does owe some people
at,
some money.
at the end of the day, sometimes maybe they don't owe these artists money because somehow these artists got themselves into contracts that they did not know what they were signing, and
Yeah.
how the proceeds of their record sales and radio airplay and publishing, they didn't have a clear enough idea of how those funds, how the profits were supposed to be funneled to them or funneled through their record label, their quote unquote uh, producers and record labels, the P Diddy's of the world, who quote unquote own these shady record labels.
So don't these guys have managers like you were a manager to your guys? What about their managers?
Well, I'm different. Their managers did whatever they did. I made sure that my guys, that there was nobody in between my guys but them and their record label. So there were no middlemen. There were no P Diddy's, and there was no Jay-Z's. They were signed directly
But
to
aren't P. Diddy,
Polygram
but
Records.
isn't P. Diddy and Jay-Z the record label? Aren't they the label?
Well, they no, you know, it's hard to try to give you and your listeners a 101 on music industry, but these things have several layers. Like the artist could be signed to P Diddy's Bad Boy Records, and then Bad Boy Records has a distribution and a publishing deal with MCA or Universal or Polygram or
Okay.
Warner Brothers. See, and
Okay.
Warner Brothers is the manufacturing and the distribution company, and basically P Diddy's record label, Bad Boy Records, is just a production company. But
Okay.
if that production company is taking a disproportionate a percentage of the contract and its proceeds, then somehow the production company ends up with more money, making more money, the lion's share of the profits of the publishing and the record sales than the artist does. And so the record label ends up with, like I said, a lion's share of the proceeds that and the profits that come from airplay and record sales.
Well, we all know that that's what record labels do. They're in the business to make money. Whereas I feel like a lot of the artists, you can kind of buy them off just for the celebrity, you know? So again,
Well, but every all they don't play these guys short. Now they all want to be paid.
I
They
can believe that and I
these
understand it.
artists want to be paid, and after they've had a hit record and they turn around and they see that they don't have any money, that they haven't gotten paid,
Yeah.
then they start asking questions, and then that's when the Jay-Z's and the P Diddy start getting gangster with the guys. This guy wants to know, how did I sell 5 million records and I don't have any money to show for it? I've never gotten anything but that 50,000, that $60,000 signing bonus that you gave me, and I haven't gotten any more money.
Well, but don't they
And
always
I
tell
just
them?
sold 5 million records.
But don't, this is when that time when they go, well, we got to recoup all of the marketing and the this and
Oh
the
yeah,
that.
that's when yeah, that's when all of that starts, all that recouping business starts. But once Warner Brothers recoups, and then the production company recoups, and then Jay-Z and P Diddy, then they recoup, and by the time end of the day, there's no money left. It's time to make another record, and before we get started with this record, here's another $50,000 advance on the next record. And then there he goes. He sells another 5 million records and he still doesn't get any more money.
Okay, so let's kind of switch gears a little bit. So, what is the state of hip hop now? What do you think? From what I actually did with my
Well,
research, is what I found is that it's going more global, where they have like that, what is his name? Travis Scott, who has that Brazilian kind of sound. Then they got the Weeknd, the Canadian guy, and then they got the Puerto Rican Bob Bunny, and then the K-pop, the Koreans. So it's like, where are the black people in this?
well, I don't see
Well, I
that.
guess the
I,
Weeknd
I, I
and Travis.
well, see, I'm not in the business anymore, so I can't tell you how these record deals work anymore. I mean, from what the last thing that I was aware of, the way record deals were negotiated was on this there's a thing called 100 degree or something record deals where the record label, the production company gets 100% of the profit of everything that the artists do. Whereas when I was in the business, all I ever negotiated were record deals, and that means that the record company didn't have anything to do with my publishing, my artist publishing. The record company didn't have anything to do with my artist merchandising. They've got these 360-degree deals now where a company like Bad Boy Records, they'll sign an artist to, for instance, Beyonce is probably signed to a 360-degree deal with Jay-Z's record label. Because I'm sure Jay-Z is getting paid from Beyonce's music. They're more than just husband and wife. Jay-Z, as his record label or her agent on whatever level, he's her agent. I'm sure he's getting paid out of her 360. So he's getting some of her record sale deal. He's getting some of her publishing. He's getting a piece of all of her merchandising. He's getting a big piece of his wife, who happens to be Beyonce. And
Okay.
I'm sure that marriage is a business deal more than it is a marriage. But that sounds too personal. But hey,
You're ready to say, man,
that's how they all go.
I keep saying you keep diving in. It's like, man, you are out for P. Diddy and Jay-Z.
Well, I'm out. You know what I'm out for? I'm out for all of this corruption that has ruined a profit center where a lot of people were look at the Sam Cooks of the world, the Ray Charles. These guys owned all their music. They own their publishing. They own their masters. They were allowed to own their music that they created. And so when the record companies stopped printing records and getting retail profits from their records, the rights to this song, so Ray Charles could walk from Mercury, take all of his masters, walk from Mercury Records, go down the street to Capitol Records and do a whole new deal and start his whole music life all that. And Capitol Records never saw another penny except for the music that they recorded when he was with them. And now Ray Charles is in 100%. He's fully in control of his past music and his future music, and therefore he's able to make a living all his life, doing deals with the music that he owns, that he created.
Well, you know
Mace,
what?
once Mace turned in a record to P. Diddy, he did not ever see another dime
Well, you
for
know what? Look, okay,
perpetuity.
let me stop you for a minute. So, Ray Charles and all of that, that was back then. We're in a whole different thing where we got streaming now, where, a lot of them are relying on streaming for their income. And you know that
Nobody's relying on
they're not
nobody's
getting
relying
much
on
from that.
income from streaming. Yeah, they're not getting any money from
Well,
that.
so what
Nobody's
about
relying
what
on that.
about them going directly with their fans or when they do concerts? Isn't that how they get paid too? Selling
Well,
directly to their fans and then with the concerts. So I don't know how record labels push or promote their artists
the
anymore.
record labels got what they call 360-degree deals now. And they get a part of your concerts, your
Oh,
merchandising,
wow.
your record
Everything.
sales, everything.
Wow. Wow. Well, so what's the solution? What do we do? Well, how do we fix this? What
Well,
we
the
gonna do? How
solution,
we gonna fix this?
well, the solution to fixing this is artists and talented people. There has to be, they have to just, somebody's got to come along and create these outlets that allow these artists to be free and clear, and so that they can produce uh, 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 marketable music and create marketable products that people want to buy without the interference of record labels doing more than what they are need to be doing. A record label doesn't need to do anything except print and distribute records. And as it is on a record deal, the artist gets. Michael Jackson was the highest paid artist, and I think he made like 18%, 18 cents on it on the dollar for every record that's sold. That's how record deals used to be. And even though that sounds like this is there's no equity in that for the artist, hey, at least the artist was free to go out and do a publishing deal on his own. He was able to go out and make a merchandising deal on his own. He could write and produce for other artists and get paid that way. But now, like I said, everything is 360. These record label owns the artist 100%.
How does
From every count,
how
from
does
every outlet, every way that they can make money, the record label, Warner Brothers, owns a piece of that now.
so how does a new artist get signed to, what are they looking for when they're signing new acts? How does that work?
There, I don't, I can't really tell you because I'm not in the business anymore, and this is why I'm not in the business anymore because there's nothing left for managers and producers, and there's nothing left in it. But this is why Prince, ended up when he died. He wasn't on a record label. He had a vault full of music, full of 2-inch tapes, music that was never sold to released to a record company because Prince and Michael Jackson, these guys, everybody knows. You're just trying to somehow you're trying to hold on to some kind of equity in the music that you create.
Yeah, well, Prince definitely was a trendsetter in terms of making sure that he got the rights to his music and that his music was put out on his terms as opposed to the record label's terms. So he
Well, to
was
be honest
rare.
with you,
He was rare. But, most people didn't have his business acumen um, and determination to make sure that what was his was his.
well, every artist wants to get paid for what he's worth. Every artist wants
Of
to get paid.
course, of
and
course.
and and the record industry. See, there's a difference. The records. It used to be about the record industry. They always traditionally they got a very huge percentage of the money for every dollar that was generated due to record sale. The record company got 88% of the 88 cents of every dollar. The artist got 10, 12, and Michael Jackson, like I said, I think Michael got 18%, and he was the highest paid artist ever.
Hmm. Well, you know, again, like I said, I don't know where we're going with this in terms of what is the real message? What is your message that you want to get across? I mean, I can tell that P. Diddy and Jay-Z are on your hot list.
Well, P. Diddy, they're on everybody's hot list right now. And so P. Diddy and Jay-Z are on the hot list, and for all we know, for what we know, we're all waiting to see what P. Diddy is going to drop on Jay-Z and expose Jay-Z. Right now, P. Diddy is the only one fighting for his life right now. But
Well, P. Diddy, it seems like he was the only one doing some of the stuff he was doing.
well,
I'm sure
he
there's
wasn't the
other
only one.
people. Oh, I'm
Oh, no,
sure.
no, no.
I'm sure.
No, he was not the only one.
Okay, okay. Don't chop my head off. What you didn't give me a chance to finish. So what I'm
No, he
thinking,
wasn't the only one.
well, no, I know that I hear that there's, other people behind him, but I think the charge that got him in the most trouble from my perspective was when he beat Cassie, when they showed the video of him beating this poor woman in the hallway, mercilessly. He was horrible.
I saw that.
And so that to me is what really catapulted this whole thing for him. Had he not done that, had he gone and respected her and given her the money that she asked for, he wouldn't even be in jail right now. He could still continue to be doing his whatever it is he was doing.
Well, that
Because he beat
situation
her.
with him is snowballed into a big thing, and the reason the snowball is so big is because that guy is very guilty of a lot of impropriety and a lot of crazy stuff.
Well, you know what? If you go on YouTube, I'm telling you, it's overwhelming with all the different stories and Jaguar
And there's some
Parade
truth,
and all of these
and
people.
there is some truth to all of it. They
Oh,
lucky I don't. They lucky I don't have a YouTube. page.
Well, you're
Uh,
on YouTube right now, baby. So say what you got to
well,
say.
I'm just out.
This is your opportunity. I'm giving you the platform. Say what
Well,
you need to
let's
say.
just say, I'll just preference this whole interview with this fact. I have not been in the record label business for as long as I haven't been because of these things. And as these guys were coming up in the business, hey, when I was in the music business, I took a meeting with P. Diddy and Andre Harrell
Okay.
because
Talk to
I
me
was,
about that.
huh?
I said, talk to me about that. What was that like?
I took a meeting with those guys when they had their Uptown records, right? So I
Okay.
get in the meeting and I'm going there. I'm talking about producing artists because my band at the time, Tony, were very producers as well as artists. So I go in and have a meeting with them. And one of the first things that comes out of Andre Harrell's mouth is, "Hey, man, are you paying those guys? Are you giving them their money? Are they getting money? Are you filing their taxes? Are they okay? So in other words, he started getting into my personal business with my artists, and that conversation went from us producing one of his acts or more than one of his acts, producing acts for his label, Uptown Records, went into him giving me the idea that he had ideas about somehow strong arming me and gangstering me and taking away my group.
Huh.
And so that's the way these things were going in those days at that time.
No, so wait,
And
backtrack. Let
and
me
as a
backtrack. Let me backtrack. So
okay,
you're in the meeting with him and he's asking
yes,
you questions about, are you paying the guys and are you doing this and that? And then he
right.
strong arm you. Like, what does that mean? How did he strong arm you?
Well, they had me kind of trapped in his office, and it was like uh, I was going to I might have to fight my way out of here.
And I know
So
you was
that's the way.
ready. I know you would have did it.
I'll tell you now for all your audience, for your whole. I never owned as many guns until as I was in the. I don't own a gun. I haven't been in the music business for 20 years. I don't own not one gun. I had a full-fledged arsenal, and why
Oh,
back in those
wow.
days because I felt like I needed it. I felt like
Wow.
I had to have it. I, I,
Wow.
I mean, you go into a label of you meet these guys somewhere for a music business meeting, and it turns into who knows what. And these guys made me feel as though I totally felt that I needed to be armed and ready for
Wow.
anything
Wow.
uh, at anytime I was on, whether it was at one of our concerts, whether I was negotiating a contract for a concert, whether I was trying to negotiate a deal for some production work for my guys, that whole scene up and down Sunset Boulevard, I just felt like I needed to be strapped because there was no telling what was going to happen
Well, Carlos,
or what could happen.
you know what? That's interesting that you say that because over the years, I remember hearing Suge Knight strong arming people, and
Yeah, we
I
actually
also
talked
heard that
about sugar.
I've heard that P. Diddy also strong arm people, and that he has a temper and things like that. So, yeah,
There was a story. A valid story going around. Didn't you hear the one where he shot the producer in the studio
no,
because the guy was talking to them and asking business questions about the artist or about the music or where it was going, and somehow he ends up shooting the producer in the
no,
studio.
no, I didn't hear that. Wow.
And he was able to get out when the ambulance and the police got there to get the story turned into he went out to somebody broke into the studio and tried to rob him while he was going to the bathroom and shot him. And that's where the story stayed at the time.
Wow.
And he ended up, I don't recall who this producer was, but P. Diddy
Wow.
shot the man in the studio over arguments of probably about how they were who owned the song, or publishing or
So
songwriting credits or something.
did he get in trouble for shooting this person?
No, when the Beverly Hills police got involved, somebody had already cleaned it up,
Oh,
and
wow.
they had some verifiable story saying that the guy was being robbed and he was shot
Oh, wow.
by a robber.
Wow.
When P Diddy shot him
Wow.
in the studio,
Now, is that
in the
allegedly?
bathroom.
Wait a minute. Is that allegedly or is that a known fact?
Well, I'm just gonna say it's alleged, but I'm sure there are people who could verify it around here somewhere. I wasn't there, but this is something that I heard.
Wow. That's
But
crazy.
I'm sure we've all heard all kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Listen, you need to get Jaguar on it. I'm gonna bring Jaguar on the next interview here with us.
Well, all you got to
She can
do is
probably
go. Look,
verify.
all you got to do is just go to her site. And I mean, this woman spills the beans so that I get to the point where I can't even listen anymore because it's overwhelming. And
Yeah.
evidently, I said, and I hear people say that she must be telling the truth because nobody has sued her.
Oh, yeah. That's a good indicator.
Well, that's what I hear. So
And
it's just like, well, I think that, Puff Daddy or P. Diddy or whatever he calls himself right now is definitely in a lot of trouble. He's in a lot of
yeah,
trouble. And
yeah,
right now,
I would say so.
my heart goes out to his children. He's got these two beautiful daughters or three beautiful daughters, his sons, and then the new little baby. It's like, what happens to them? And I just hope that the public is kind enough to not, you know, uh,
Try not to associate them
right,
with
take
the
shots at them.
behavior and the
Yeah, I just
actions
really hope that they
of
don't
the
take
father.
shots at
Yeah,
them and let them, give them their space and privacy, because I'm sure this must be an ordeal for them,
yeah,
finding out stuff about maybe their dad that they didn't even know. You know what I mean?
right, right.
So I just hope that the public is a little kind because social media can really not be so kind sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's just brutally honest and upfront and firsthand delivery of a lot of these messages.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so moving forward, how you gonna fix this, Mr. Carlos Stanfield? What you gonna
Well,
do?
Carlos Stanfield don't have no, no. I don't have a man in the fight on any of this stuff these days.
Okay, okay.
So we're not gonna fix.
You just
I'm
sit back watching. You just getting ready to watch to
yeah.
see how it unfolds.
I'm a bystander, just like you. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna all
yeah.
sit back and watch this. It's a very interesting thing,
But so you
and
think
but
that
yeah, but
Jay-Z is in trouble? See, and that's the thing. I haven't heard anything about Jay-Z. I keep seeing on YouTube, of course, that he's fled and he's hiding. And I don't know if that's true or not, but why would they come after him?
well, because he's probably guilty of some of the same types of things. I
Well, if
mean,
P. Diddy
hey man,
doesn't, but if Puff Daddy doesn't uh throw him under the bus, then
well,
nothing.
but he yeah, but Pete, hey, Jay Z has probably done enough stuff that he can stand on his own 2 feet. Remember now, you got to remember that you got a guy who ran away from here and sold everything and moved from America and went to some foreign country, some foreign island somewhere. I forgot where it is he went to, but the guy who had Def Jam Records, Lionel, what was his name? Lionel,
I don't know.
the
Def
one,
Jam
the guy the guy who had Def Jam Records. He sold his share in Def Jam and ran up out of here
I
and
thought that
left
was
the country because
Russell Simmons, was it?
yeah, Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons.
Okay,
That's
that's right. When
exactly
you
right.
say had
See,
Lionel,
see,
I'm thinking,
yes, Russell
okay,
Simmons.
I remember Russell Simmons.
You got to understand. See, this stuff goes all the way. A lot of this stuff goes all the way back to
Wait a
Russell
minute,
Simmons. And
backtrack. What did Russell Simmons do? He's no longer in the States.
no, Russell Simmons is an expatriate now, and he moved out of here. He moved to a country with no extradition laws, so they can't extradite him and get him back over here because he was involved in a lot of the
Oh,
same kind of
wow.
shenanigans that P Diddy and Jay Z are being called on the carpet for right now. And
Oh.
Lionel Russell ran up out of here.
Why do you keep
Kamora,
calling him Lionel Russell? His name is, now you got me missing his name.
I mean Russell Simmons, Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons had the makings of a lot of the same kind of crap that P. Diddy is never going through right now.
Oh,
He had a lot. I mean, to be honest with you, Kamara went through a lot of the same stuff that girl went with that got slapped down the hallway with P. Diddy.
oh wow.
Kamara got some stories for you about Lionel, about
Okay.
Russell Simmons, rather.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
A lot of the same stuff. Because remember, she was quite young. I think she was barely of adult age when Russell
Now that's what I
went with
was
her.
really surprised about at how young some of those girls were. I think I just saw something recently where Foxy Brown was with Jay-Z at a very young age.
Well, then you got then the same thing with um, uh, when you got same thing with Jay Z. Jay Z couldn't wait for Beyonce to turn 18.
Is he much older than her?
He is much older than her. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow. Well, but her parents allowed it,
It,
so
yeah, her parents allowed. That's right. Now see that's the kicker with her situation is that her parents allowed it, and that's a doggone shame because you know they were a Hollywood mom and pop, so you know it's some of that Hollywood. You know how some of the stories, the
oh
Hollywood
yeah,
stories, and the
absolutely.
minor
Absolutely.
children
Right,
and
right.
all that kind of thing. You know,
Yeah, they go
Judy
to
Garland's
parties.
story, how her mother pretty
Yes.
much packaged her up and sold her to the industry.
Yeah.
Beyonce was packaged and sold to the industry, and Jay Z was a buyer. Boom.
Wow.
That's all I'll say about that.
Well, they turned out to be a mighty, mighty couple.
Well, hey, trust me, Beyonce was going to be the sky's the limit for her because she's so extremely talented.
Yeah.
But there was never any reason for them to break up that group, Destiny's Child. There was no reason whatsoever to
Well, but
ever break up
come on
that
now.
group.
Come on now. There's always the breakout talent always has to have their own thing. So I don't see anything wrong with that actually.
Excuse me, those other three girls were very talented individuals,
No, I'm not
and
saying that they're not, but they still did not have the same kind of charisma as Beyonce had.
yes, they did.
Well,
They
they
did
did
too. Kelly Rowland,
and I
she's
think
still
she's,
hanging
you know
around.
what? And I believe it or not, I think Kelly Rowland is absolutely adorable. She is really pretty. I think she's actually prettier than Beyonce to me. But I just know that I haven't seen her talent like Beyonce's. I don't see it.
See,
I'm not
listen,
saying that she's not talented, but like I said, I can understand how Beyonce became the front girl. It's not. And then
you don't
too,
understand. You don't
no,
understand how that happened.
I do understand. And then plus she got the look. Beyonce's light-skinned, she got the hair, she got the this, and that's
And
what
so,
people
and
want.
so that Kelly Rowland ain't much different, darker shaded than her. The other girl was just as light skinned
Yeah,
as her.
they
And,
don't have the right light skin.
and Latavia in the group when they were 16, 17 years old, Latavia had more body and a voice that was right there. Let me tell you something.
So
You
then
do
what
have to
happened? But so
remember
who
that
pushed Beyonce to be up front?
her daddy,
Because it was
her
his group.
mother and
But it
father.
but again, it was their group. So that makes sense. You act like that's
No, it wasn't.
unusual.
It did not make sense. You remember, I produced those girls before for their record. They got them their record deal.
Okay.
I
Okay.
produced Girls Time for 2 years.
Okay. Okay. Well, you tell me something I don't know. Enlighten me.
For 2 years, I had those girls all summer, but when they were 15 and 16 years old,
Okay. So you
as
saw
a
the
group.
talent.
Oh yeah, there
Yeah.
was never any reason whatsoever for that group until Jay-Z got involved for them to break up. Never any reason whatsoever. Beyonce could have got her own record deal and done a solo act and a group album, a
Okay.
solo album and a group album, toured as a solo, toured as a group. Yeah, it just alternate year and had all the work she could handle and all the success that she would be able to handle with no distractions. It did not have to be any distractions. And that's what they always could have done.
So now tell
It's,
me this, did with her leaving the group, did Destiny's Child get another person to replace her, or they just disbanded the group?
they just totally they disbanded the group.
But see, they
They
should have did like what the Supremes did and the
Destiny's Child
Temptations.
did.
They should have
Destiny's
got a
Child did.
replacement.
Well, that's because listen, you had a guy who was a leader in his industry, Barry Gordy.
Absolutely. That's my
See,
guy. Yes.
you had Barry Gordy, see, and Barry Gordy, made those situations work. He would replace people. The
Right.
Supremes already had a name,
Right.
so and a brand. He didn't care who he did care, but he could still take that brand, the Supremes, and he did it. And
Yeah.
they continued to put out records under the Supremes.
Yes,
Once Diana
absolutely.
Ross was gone,
And the Temptations did the same, and the Temptations
but they
still
did it
do
for
it.
the, that's right.
Yeah.
Barry Gordy understood that. Just because somebody wanted to go solo, he wasn't going to. There was no reason to disband that quote unquote that a brand, the Temptations. Why do I have to disband the Temptations because David Ruffin can't keep his head straight?
Okay, now you know what? I don't mean to stop, but right now I would be remiss if we did not
Uh-huh.
talk about Tito Jackson. So of course,
Oh, that's
when
right.
I heard about his death,
Yeah.
it set me back a bit because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you know.
Did you get any details about what happened to him?
Well,
I
they
did
said he
never
had a heart
see.
attack. He was driving, coming back from someplace.
Okay.
He had just
Okay.
eaten at a restaurant with some of his friends,
So that's what
and it
happened.
was like kind of fast food that he probably shouldn't have been eating. And, he did have a heart attack. But, with all of that set aside, when it's your time, no matter
Right.
what. And,
Right.
it was just so nice seeing all the love and the Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, all the love he was getting on those sites. All the pictures, the music. It was just very heartwarming. So it's like, oh my God, we lost another Jackson. So
Yeah.
the Jackson Five, the Jackson family, they were like our royalty. They were like the Kennedys
Yeah.
to the world. So they were like that to us, especially to Black people.
Yes.
So losing him was definitely a loss. And I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge,
That
that
we touched
condolences
on
to the
that. Yeah.
families and, because me, I was a Michael Jackson fan forever. And I
Yes.
also loved all the Jacksons,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
just over the years, I always wondered why they never ever made any new music. I never understood that.
Well, it's not really that hard. You can't replace Michael. That's
Well,
why.
but you know what? But when they were the Jacksons, when after when they were with Epic, and Michael was with them, of course, and they did their music. Michael allowed them to sing separately. I mean, each one of them had songs that they could sing on the albums and whatnot. But they grew up in a musical family. They knew music. They didn't need Michael. They could have done their own thing and still survived. But when I see them in concert, I went to go see them in Vegas a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really taken aback that they were singing Michael songs.
All right.
Thinking out of all the songs they could have sung, you know, why are you guys singing Michael songs that are too high? And I know that was probably their way of showing their love and support that we miss Michael too. But if I was their manager, I would not have had them sing so many of Michael's songs. I would have had them sing the songs off the Jacksons album. They had their album and the old stuff, ABC, I Want You Back. They needed to be singing that kind of stuff as opposed to trying to sing Michael's song. Because that just, anyways, it just,
Well, it didn't. That didn't seem to make a lot of sense. But you got to remember, UK, you got promoters involved, and
oh
when the
yeah.
promoters get involved, they talk to management into telling them, hey, you know, uh,
Well, you know what,
yeah,
Carlos? If they were going to do that, the smarter move would have had, to me, would have had Tito's children, the three T's, come and do that. Because those kids sound exactly like Michael. They can sound and sing like him.
yeah,
And they were talented. So one of the sons was on tour with them. One of
yeah.
Tito's son
And what?
was on tour, doing
Okay.
background music with them. So they were, anyways, he's going to be missed. He's going to be missed. And I have no clue where Jermaine is. Nobody knows where he's at. He's kind of missing in action. But I think he'll come out because his son Jafar is going to be playing Michael Jackson in a movie. There's an
Whose son?
upcoming
Jermaine's son?
Jermaine's son Jafar. Yes, he's going to be playing Mike
Really?
in an upcoming movie. And this little kid is quite talented, and he sings. He's very soft spoken, very much like Michael, and he's very handsome. So I think, and they've been training him and giving him acting lessons and all of that stuff. So I
So
think
when
it's
is this
going to really
coming
be
out?
good. I don't know, maybe sometime in 2025. It's, because they've been working on it for a while.
Uh-huh.
So, and I'm sure Jermaine might have something to do with that since it is his son. So I
Yeah.
just hope Jermaine is okay, because he has been missing, and I think, he's got women problems as well, from what I understand. He's got a lot of baby mamas and whatnot. But I just hope that they're all well. And then Janet, of course, she said something about Kamala that was not too cool. So,
Well, I heard about that. What
yeah.
was that? What was that all about? What
Well, I don't know if she was not black enough or her daddy or something. I don't know what she said, but what she said was definitely she should have kept her mouth shut.
did she did she
And then she didn't
retract it?
apologize. No,
Oh,
because
she did not,
no,
huh?
she said what she said, and it's like, okay, so, I think when people want to be relevant, they say things and do things just to stay in the presence of the public. And that's crazy to me. I guess being a celebrity comes with sometimes it's hard for them to walk away from it. They always want to be seen and heard. So,
And to be controversial in their remarks.
right. And it's like, you know what? Do something good for somebody. How about that?
Right.
That's
Right.
all I got to say. But yeah, but anyway, so Tito Jackson, just know that you're in our thoughts and in our hearts, and you will never ever be forgotten. And
Rest in peace, Tito.
I love his little hat and his glove. He's got how Michael had his iconic gloves and silver socks and whatnot. Tito had his hat and glasses. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. And, you know, Marlon and Jackie, I don't know if they're going to continue now since Tito's gone, because it was the three of them on tour.
Right. Right. Right.
So, anyways,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. I mean, uh I wish I had seen that show. Did you get an opportunity to see the act itself
which
in
act?
person? The Jacksons.
Oh, yeah. I
You
actually
saw it?
on my YouTube station, like I said, I saw them several times. I saw them in Vegas, and I actually videotaped them.
You actually saw them in person.
Yes,
And was it entertaining?
absolutely. Oh my God,
It was.
it wasn't just entertaining, it was
Even
heart.
though they were singing Michael songs, it
It
was.
was, you know what? It didn't matter. It was so happy and so great to see them
Well,
together again.
who was Michael? Who portrayed
They
Michael?
took turns. They took turns singing because Jackie has a very high voice. He has a
So Jackie was able to sing those
he
songs?
could sing some of the songs Marlon would sing. Um, yeah, and Jermaine, matter of fact, when I saw them the first time, Jermaine was even with them.
Uh-huh.
And I actually have videotapes where I taped them because I was sitting right up front. And the lady tells me, "Oh, you can't have the camera here." And I'm like, "Lady, I'm gonna have my camera, so you need to just step aside." And I kept videotaping, and she left
It,
me
you, it,
alone.
so you
But I videotaped it, so I do have it on.
you went to Vegas to see it?
Absolutely. I even
Okay.
went to Vegas to see Michael Jackson's one, that Cirque du Soleil thing they have.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so
I
no,
actually saw
I
that.
definitely I wanted to see the Jackson. I was happy to see them back in action again. And I'm gonna tell you something. Their mom was in the audience with the Aribi, the sister. They were sitting very close to us. But it was just
Uh-huh.
really, like I said, it was just really nice hearing the music again, and it was great watching them do their dance moves and whatnot. And I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I did it. And yeah.
Well, you, that brings up another name you might want to do some research on, and that's Frank Branca, John Branca,
Oh,
and
his manager. I know a lot about him.
his lawyer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and John uh
McLean.
John McClain.
Yeah, I know a lot about both of them.
After all these years, these guys are still after Michael's money. It is just
Well,
unbelievable.
but you know
Those two.
what? Michael did not update his will, and so they were named executors. They
Excuse me. I would venture to say, between you and I and whoever else sees this interview, yeah, Michael probably had all of his business airtight the way he wanted it.
hmm.
Trust me, you are not seeing John Branca and John McClain had some other stuff signed that Michael didn't know anything about, and they are not presenting Michael's wishes. They are not
Well,
representing
I saw
Michael's
that where
wishes.
the mom really wanted to stop them from selling his catalog. And she had asked the grandson. The grandson actually stopped her. He didn't want her, the Biggie or whatever his name is,
Well,
Blanket.
sounds like John McClain and John Branca have gotten the ear of that little boy or that Michael's son,
Yeah, yeah.
and they've pitted him against the mother.
Well, and again, like I said, I think about Prince even. Prince didn't leave a will. So he just left that out into the ethers, which was very interesting to me because he saw Michael's death go through the not having a lawyer thing. And then for him to turn around and do that, and I'm sure it had a lot to do with him being a Jehovah Witness, is what I'm thinking. So I don't know. But
You know,
that where his brothers and sisters are having to
that
fight
that
over
that
that.
that music business is just full of a lot of bad
Well,
people.
I always had a hard time trying to be in it and not in it. And so
Yeah,
I was just very grateful that I was able to be in it, being a part of the Grammys, where I was a board of governors, where I served 2 terms as a board of governors, making sure that they were doing things in the African American community. So
yeah.
that made me feel really good because I didn't have to be dealing with the other stuff. Because I was really frightened about the music industry, especially after I read the book Hitman. You remember
Yeah,
that book? So
I read that. Yeah, yeah. I think that was a
yeah,
must-read book.
yes, Hitman just really turned me. I was like, I don't know how to do that kind of negotiation and
But
s-
this
telling
is why
people
we
one
can't.
thing and doing another.
This is why we can't leave. If Clive Davis comes out of this latest atmosphere that's in going around the music industry now, especially with regards to black music. If he comes out of this unscathed again, I, I can, whether anybody knows it or not, all this P Diddy and stuff, this stuff starts with Clive Davis. Now there, I said his name,
Yeah.
Clive Davis.
Yeah. No, I've definitely heard that. And I've read stuff about Clive Davis. I have so many wonderful books that I've read, and some of these people I've actually known. And then I remember when I met Marty Ballin's dad. Marty Ballin's dad, Marty Ballin used to be one of the singers with Jefferson Airplane.
Okay.
And he was my mentor. This man sat me down and told me story, and I actually have him on tape where I actually interviewed him and got all kinds of stories. So when he was telling me the stories about Grace Slick and Clive and uh, what's the man's name that used to do the Fillmore on the Fillmore?
Oh, the Fillmore, uh,
What can I think of his name? Anyway,
the
so
the concert man.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I have all kinds of stories about those guys. So I was very
Right.
fortunate to have some incredible music mentors as I was coming up.
Yeah.
And, that's when I decided, I think I'm actually going to continue working in the community, helping kids instead of pursuing a music career. And that's what made me stop.
Well, you kind of you had to. I had to do something very similar. I had to make a decision about whether I wanted to stay in the music business or not because of all the impropriety that comes with this business. The people in there doing really doing harm
Mm-hmm.
to the real artists and
Mm-hmm.
musicians and writers and the real people with the real talent in that industry that are being lied to, cheated out of, bullied, gangster, anything they can in any way they can to uh, come between these artists, the true talented people, and what they deserve as compensation from an industry that generates a lot of money. And these artists who are responsible for generating that money are not getting their, it's not about their fair share. It's not a fair share. It's about not getting what is due them
Yeah.
according to the rules of the game, the way you sign a contract and what you sign away, your rights and your likeness. And these contracts are very, very detailed. And then as tight and as descriptive as these music industry contracts are, then you got people like Clive Davis, P. Diddy, Jay-Z, uh, uh, the guy, whenever you have these artists, Russell Simmons, and wherever you have these artists who are not getting paid.
Well, you know what? We are getting ready to sign out. And so I want you to think of some parting words that will kind of shine a brighter light than what we've shined on, for upcoming artists in terms of not making them be fearful of getting into the industry. What is something
Okay,
you could say to them that will encourage them, or something that they definitely should?
get involved in this industry if you really love music, if you really love singing, playing, dancing, if you really have the talent and you really love what you do it for the love of the artistry and let the rest of it take care of itself because you have very little control over it. And if you're out here doing it for the money, you're going to run into these issues. This is how you end up um, with uh, with guys, with people like Jay-Z and P. Diddy running your career and then destroying your career, and they run off with all of the rewards for your God-given talent. Do it for the love of the music, do it for the love of performing, do it because you love your artistry.
Yeah.
And then let the let the let the paydays fall where they may. But if you get out here and you start doing it for the money, you're going to run into these crooks and these people who are there who only for the money, and that's who you'll be competing against. You won't be competing against other artists. You're going to be competing against people who are after your money.
All right. And then what I would like to add on to that is make sure you read about the industry, read how it started, read how it's evolved, and read about some of the people that you admire. Learn as much as you possibly can about publishing, um, just the ins and out, talk to different executives, lawyers, talk to other people that run the industry that can kind of give you some fruitful advice as well. So on that
Yes.
note, I would like to thank Carlos Stanfield for coming to share his input about, man, you was on it with P. Diddy and Jay-Z. And, I appreciate that. And, we'll definitely have to come back and do some more music. So I would like to thank my audience for listening and make sure that you subscribe, come back, and we'll see you next time.
Well, can I have one more closing note?
Go ahead.
Jay-Z and P. Diddy was scrubs in the industry. At the same time that I was doing business in that industry, they were scrubs. So how they ended up billionaires is it's a lot of carnage trail leading up to those guys. Stay away from them types. And that's my closing.
Okay, on that note, goodbye. Thanks again.